Klaudius, it's great to have you on the show. It's our first show together. I'll introduce you, and I'll introduce the way that we got speaking about a variety of things. I came to see you, I think, in Frankfurt about 6 or 7 years ago about something completely different. We started to talk about things like politics, about macroeconomics, and eventually, over the course of time, we started talking about well-being. I spoke perhaps about my past as an athlete, and then, as you will be able to explain to people, you also started to do something on your side in the well-being space. Before we get going, I just wanted to give you a little bit, and the audience, a little bit of background about what happened to me over the last couple of years. We had COVID, we had lockdown in March 2022, and quite a few of us, in fact, millions of us, were put on Kurzarbeit in German, or on furlough in Britain, which meant that in Britain in particular, you couldn't really work. What I did is that I started a fasting diet, which was 2 days of fasting, no eating after 6 p.m. And I did that for about 8 to 9 months. I still do it now. And in the process, I lost something like 50 kilos. So I went from, in kilos, I went from 150 kilos all the way back down to 100 kilos, which was my Olympic weight. You in the process, you've done interesting things as well. I think you've done things like you started courses, you started things like trying different foods, you've tried different diets, and also, interestingly enough, you went into the space of, if I'm not mistaken, in Pilates, and that's really interesting. So can you give us 2 or 3 minutes of what you've done, how it's happened, and the audience is obviously going to want to know why you've done all you've done and how it's been working.
I'm a trained yoga teacher, and yoga is so much more than most people think, because in the Western world, yoga is for most people the physical exercise, whereas yoga is everything from physical exercise through nutrition, through the way to see the world and the way to meditate, to find your spiritual freedom. And Corona was a very interesting development, because a lot of people were having issues going through it, either issues with gaining weight, or issues with the wrong nutritions, or issues with their physical or mental health. And I can tell you that yoga was extremely good to maintain all in a very positive form. So you can maintain your weight while doing yoga, but you also can maintain your physical and mental health, which then helps you to go through all the difficult times, and possibly will help also the people going through those times once Corona start fading away and they need to find back into their normal lives.
So how did you get into yoga? Because I'm pretty sure that when we first met 7 years ago, you're in the asset management space. Yoga wasn't the thing that was on top of your agenda, right? You were thinking about other things. Did you stumble into it? I mean, no pun intended. Did you literally go, you walked down the street, you saw a club and the window was full of really attractive women, or perhaps not, and you just thought, I need to go into that club? Or did you start thinking, you picked it up online and you thought, this is the exercises that I think will work for me. It's just mental state I need to get to closer to. How did you get involved into that?
Well, maybe as most people, when you go through a very stressful time, a very demanding time where your physical presence needs to improve, but also your mental attitude needs to calm down. If there is a lot of stress around you, a lot of uncertainty, this is a time when you start looking for new ways and means. And I suppose you've been going through that not only through Corona, but already before that. Most people start with their issues with the health, or maybe issues with their body weight. Some other people start realizing it with their mental health. And in my case, it was sort of a mixture of all three, and a search for how can I address all those three issues together in one go, not just working out, but also how can I change the way I eat, how do I become healthier through the process of eating, and at the end of it, sort of to put the top hat all across all those areas is how can I mentally bridge the health and obviously the spiritual side of a stressful job and a stressful life.
That's really the interesting thing that I've also noticed, which is obviously for different reasons, and we took different paths. But what's been interesting for me is the amount of calories I've completely cut off, and I mean, I essentially did the brutal way of losing weight, which is 2 days a week, no food. I'll have some sparkling water and some coffee, and I'll stop eating, not because I understand the science of it, but because it just I heard people do that kind of stuff, and it seemed to work. For me, what I really liked about this was the set routine. I no longer had to think on these various days about what to do, what to eat, and what not to eat.
Part, you have chosen a very difficult way for most people, because counting calories and depriving your body of food is something that, you know, a lot of people will have, you know, issues to follow. I realized, talking to many people and also from my own experience, that switching to food that makes your body actually healthier, not necessarily restricting calories, is a first great step to improve your health, and also to lose weight. So basically, there are, I don't know, hundreds probably of diets how to lose weight through calorie restriction, but most of the people always have the same issue, that they lose weight, they gain weight. That's always the cycle of coming and going. And basically, it is much easier for a lot of people to start subtracting from their food or daily food certain ingredients that they don't need, like, for example, sugar. So you can keep on your diet, you can keep on the same way of eating that you had over the last years, but then you start taking something out of it. And it may subtract a few calories here and there, but actually over the time you start realizing, as you said rightly, that you didn't need it. And one of the easiest things for most people would be basically take away your sugar, you know, get rid of your sugar. And it will take away calories, but also it will take the calories that your body will not even realize, as the sugar is not something that your body actually requires. This is more of a feeling of drug type of you know, craving. That means, you know, I need to have sugar. But that's, you know, taking small steps usually is a much better way to stop yourself from going through the cycle of boom and bust. And restricting calories is probably then the next step.
You might have given me a reason to start eating every day. I'll tell my wife, she'll be delighted to know that there's another way of doing it, losing weight. But you're right. I mean, once you change something, there's a chain reaction of positivity that you can have. So Klaudius, thank you so much for your time. I'm delighted that you were able to make it today. Perhaps next time we can go through some views and some techniques on yoga, what you do, how you're based, and you know, how people can get involved. Let's leave that for next week. In the meantime, thank you very much for coming onto the Don't Wait Up channel, and we hope that we'll be able to make this a regular feature. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me, and we definitely find the first steps to start.